And with the chart, guys, in this video, we're going to check in on Bitcoin, trying to shape up a weekly bull flag. We have some altcoins already setting weekly higher lows, still weakness in the NASDAQ. I made an entry on MSTR today. We'll talk about that trade because it doesn't look like I'm going to stay in it with how things are developing. All right, let's go. Happy New Year, 2025. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate the likes and the shares, as always. First things first, we are running a 20% off sale on all of our indicators. People wanted some deals for the new year, so we'll give it to you. 20% off the listed price. That's the Super Stack, Back Burner, Trade Keeper, historical RSIs, pretty much indicators for helping time entries and indicators to help stay in trades. I'm going to do a live stream on Saturday where I go over each of these indicators and how I use them. All right, charts. Oh, link in the chat and in the comments for the indicators, and the discount is applied automatically at the checkout. Okay, so we have Bitcoin, again, just for continuity's sake, and continuity is really important when you are trading. If you are constantly looking at things, seeing how things are developing, we were looking for the bear break with no follow through into the daily bounce. We got it. We were watching the falling wedge at that point. The daily falling wedge, as far as I'm concerned, has broken bull, or is attempting to break bull today. Now what? You will very often see falling wedges transform into inverse head and shoulders, and rising wedges transform into head and shoulders. And so, on this daily bounce, we're in a daily downtrend, right? So we had a tightening range that broke bear, lower highs and lower lows. And so we could say, anything under 99.9, I'm just going to call it 100,000. Anything under 100,000 is a daily lower high. So if this falling wedge is going to follow through with a bullish pattern, it then needs to turn into an inverse head and shoulders, which is just a downtrend changing into an uptrend. So if we fail 100,000 on this bounce, we look for a daily higher low to form compared to 91.2, and then the bulls must confirm the daily uptrend to set the weekly higher low, and then keep that weekly bull flag in play, looking back to the all-time highs. So that is what is most important from here. I'm looking for a daily lower high compared to 100,000. I'm looking for a daily higher low from there. We got the weekend coming up, but that's what I'm watching for into next week, if this is going to continue to shape up in the manner which bulls want to see. One downside is the NASDAQ is still pretty weak. Well, let's go dominance first. Dominance. So the dominance set the weekly lower high that we were looking for. If you are an altcoin bull, you want to see a weekly downtrend confirm. That said, there's a lot of space here, and it's entirely possible that all of January we just spend tightening up with a weekly equilibrium. Generally, if you tell me this is a stock or a crypto, doesn't matter the time frame, doesn't matter the trading instrument, when you get this much volatility in both directions, an equilibrium is the most likely scenario. So I'm going to be watching for that to potentially be the case, to just tighten up and then eventually break after potentially 3 or 4 more weeks. Maybe we pull back for another week or two, then we bounce for a week or two, and then we look for a break in February. That remains to be seen. Again, I'm just laying out a scenario of what I feel is most likely, and then watching for signs. Yes, the most likely scenario is playing out, or no, you are wrong. The NASDAQ is still weak. Here is the NASDAQ testing the FOMC lows, about to confirm a daily downtrend, and about to start monthly consolidation. You may recognize this monthly candle. That's what Bitcoin just did. So the NASDAQ futures chart, as we speak, is on the verge of monthly consolidation. Here's Bitcoin on the monthly chart. Just a note, I put out a long-term patterns video yesterday. That's on our YouTube channel. Talk about Bitcoin and talk about the broader market. That's worth checking out. But it's the same monthly candle. So we just have to prepare ourselves. If the NASDAQ monthly candle looks the same and starts monthly consolidation, for me, that increases the probabilities that Bitcoin can see monthly consolidation as well. So just want to be aware of it. Hey, $10. Thanks for the tip. I'll give it to somebody in need. That might be the biggest tip ever. All right, so what would monthly consolidation look like if it's going to happen? It would either be this daily inverse head and shoulder failing to a fresh low, or the weekly bull flag failing to fresh lows. But we have relative strength compared to the NASDAQ right now. That's clear. Look at the 15-minute time frame on Bitcoin this morning. You can see the volatility picked up when the bell rang. And then you've got the volatility, or the 15-minute of the NASDAQ, way weaker. So there is relative strength in Bitcoin compared to the NASDAQ. We can say that much. Again, it's just a puzzle piece. What the NASDAQ is doing does matter for me. So we got dominance. We got the NASDAQ testing support. If the NASDAQ breaks support, keep an eye on the S&P 500 because it has a little bit more space to work with. And if the S&P 500 does not break support, then the NASDAQ's not going to get very far. Right now, it's the majority of the weakness in the market is the Magnificent Seven. Tesla, Apple pulling back real hard. Apple just fell off a cliff from all-time high, 10% drop almost. And then Tesla, bad news, big drop. So it's mostly the Magnificent Seven. MSTR. So let's talk about my trade today. So my trade thesis was, okay, we're down almost 50% from the all-time high. Some altcoin bulls are setting up weekly higher lows. I was watching this 4-hour potential falling wedge type of pattern on MSTR as well, grinding this support. And of course, over the last couple of days, we've had some crypto strength. So I saw, I approached the morning saying, okay, I'm looking long on MSTR. We start the morning with a pretty decent drop, first thing from 302 straight down to 294. And so I then say, okay, well, I know anything above the low of Tuesday, 285, is an hourly higher low. So I'm looking long on any initial morning weakness. And so my trades, where'd they go? So I make an entry at 296.29. And my style of trading is my day trade position sizes are larger than my swing trade position sizes. Why? If I'm day trading, I'm in complete control. There's no gaps when the market's closed. Here's MSTR gapping down a couple of days ago. So there's less risk day trading. So I have a larger position size. And then once the bounce starts going in my favor, I start scaling out. You can see how quickly I start scaling out there, where, I exit 20%. So I'm in 296s, I exit 20%. This order's wrong, but I exit 20% at 298s. Then I sell some in the 303s. Then I finally sell some in the 307s. So that gets my break even now, under 290. I'm very comfortable in this trade. I'm in complete control and I can let it play out. And we had a 15-minute tightening range that just broke bear. And so essentially I position myself where I'm in complete control. I set my stop at break even, which is under the low of the day at that point. And then I just let it play out. And however the day plays out, I don't have to decide if I'm going to swing this position for 5 hours after my entry. And so I now know that I'm probably not going to swing this position. Why? This is not a strong candle on MSTR. Couple that with the fact that Bitcoin, anything under 100,000 is a daily lower high. Bitcoin may give us a daily lower high tomorrow or Saturday or sometime in the near term. So I don't love the setup. Now, if this went differently, if MSTR had broken this 15-minute tightening range bullish into the end of the day and closed near the high of the day, I'll swing that position. I've got profit cushion to work with, but not with this setup. I don't like how it's played out. So that's just a perfect example of how I trade. Larger position size day trade, exit partial, get my break even lower, set a stop at break even, let it play out, maybe a swing trade. We'll see how we close in the afternoon. And that's it. Pretty straightforward. It requires a good bit of activity, active management, but that is how I shape up my swing trades. All right, rest of crypto. Well, let's do a couple more stocks. Coin. So Coin's looking for a weekly higher low as well. But again, this daily chart is just an inside bar. There's nothing convincing about this move at this point. Coin is still a 15-minute equilibrium where MSTR just broke bear. So maybe we can keep in a tightening range. But again, essentially a daily inside bar doesn't give me information. It's almost like, got to wait tomorrow for that information because the inside bar either breaks bull or bear. And obviously those are two very different things. But the inside bar itself just tells me we're trading sideways within a tightening range. So Miners. Miners are still very weak overall. I don't have any interest in these miners until they show relative strength. So, yes, things can change, but there is no sign of them changing at this point. Riot is a little bit stronger, but CLSK and MARA, again, we're back to levels from, we were trading at this level in April. We were trading at this level in January. What was Bitcoin in January of 2023 a year ago? A lot lower. So MARA is trading at where we were when Bitcoin was in the 40s. We are over 100% higher, and MARA is at the same price. Dilution is a factor in that. ETH, still a tightening daily range. We were just in one of the tightest periods. Again, make note when we're really tight. This ETH 6-day range was the tightest 6-day range that we've been in over a year. So we know volatility is coming. It ended up with a bull break, but we are still range bound in this equilibrium. So again, we've got our low, high, higher, low, lower, high, higher, low, sideways. If we do not break 33,544, if we do not break 3544, we remain in a daily sideways range. We have to break that level for the weekly higher low to be set. And then we watch for the possibility of a weekly lower high, but first things first, we are still just tightening up sideways at this point. It's almost like, you break from a real tight range into a wider range, but still a sideways tight range. So key resistance test at the moment, rejecting initially. Link. So a couple of videos ago, I guess it was 6 days ago, again, the thesis, Bitcoin, bear break, no follow through. I was watching XRP and Link to do the same thing. Bear break, no follow through to look long. Link, at least on Coinbase, broke its base of support. The base was $20 in 1985. We broke it by 1% straight into a 10%, 12, 14% bounce, whatever it is. So trade thesis worked out. Again, my style at this point, if you buy that bear break or you buy the pass back over 20, you sell partial into the initial bounce, knowing we're still in a daily downtrend. You get your break even under the 1965 low. You set your stop under that level with some wiggle room, ideally. Let's say you're filled at 2050 and you sell half at 2150. Now your break even, not including fees, is down at 1950. That's the way to be in complete control of a trade and let it play out. You either nailed the weekly high or low and have a great entry, and we're going to head another 20% higher, or you stop out and don't lose anything, and you're back to all cash, and you patiently wait for the next setup. We are still in a daily downtrend. Anything under 26 is just a daily lower high. So again, same thing. If this is going to be like Bitcoin, bulls want to see another leg up to create the space for an inverse head and shoulders to try and take shape. We have not set the weekly high or low yet on Link. We have on a bunch of other alts. Not a ton of them, but some of them. XRP, weekly high or low is set. XLM led the way over the weekend. Shout out Jungle Funk Joey. He's not doing these streams at the moment, but follow his Twitter at JungleFunk_. Daily falling wedge into weekly EMA 12 XLM. He's talking about the confluence of signals. Weekly high or low is the most likely scenario. Weekly EMA 12 is support. Daily falling wedge is a bullish pattern. And it broke out perfectly. I didn't even see him make that post, and posted about the falling wedge a bit later the next day. But a big time breakout from that falling wedge. Weekly high or low is set. So now what? Now there's a lot of space. We scout the possibility of a weekly lower high compared to 64. We can go 30% from here and still set another weekly lower high. So again, weekly tightening ranges are the most likely scenario. And if that's going to happen, that would be the dominance chart likely giving us that tightening weekly range as well. So make note of the names that have confirmed weekly higher lows. The more individual altcoins that do it, the higher the probability that the names that have not done it yet are going to do it as well and follow suit. So again, you could just quickly go down the list. RNDR hasn't set yet. Sol, weekly high or low set. Lots of space for a lower high here as well. ADA set the weekly high or low. On the names that set the weekly high or low, that's now a very important level. If we break that level, we confirm weekly downtrends and we give back a lot of the pump to end last year. Gotta hold those lows if we're going to stay bullish and confident in Q1 2025. All right. Reading the chat room. 58 likes, more please. I got a real white face, huh? Sunshine. NASDAQ's trying to bounce here in the short term. Bitcoin benefiting. Bitcoin's a possible 15-minute head and shoulders. If we're going to see 4-hour consolidation, it would be via a 15-minute head and shoulders. Keep an eye on that over the next couple hours. APT. Weekly. Let's go monthly. So potential for a monthly equilibrium. Low, high, higher, low. Is this a lower high forming? Sure, looks like it, but we won't have a ton of confidence unless we confirm a weekly downtrend. Potential weekly head and shoulders. So again, we can be looking for a short-term bounce for a weekly high or low, as is the case with many altcoins, but we will then be looking for a weekly lower high. And if we confirm a weekly downtrend on this name, monthly equilibrium is going to play out. And we're going to tighten up. Was that a lower low? 470? That was a lower low. So I'd be viewing it as high, low, and potentially shaping up the lower high. And it could be a boring next 3 or 4 months if the bears confirm that weekly downtrend. Bears are going to be waiting for weekly lower highs on a bunch of these alts. We'll see if they're right or not. Long-term outlook on Litecoin. So, not a good sign to break this wall on the monthly chart and fall right back under it. That's a lack of acceptance at that higher price level. So we are definitely still struggling against the resistance in the 1-teens. We are looking for a weekly higher low, as is the case for a ton of alts. And again, you've got to, we can easily see a weekly tightening range, but you've got to hold those higher lows. If you confirm a weekly downtrend, that is telling us that is a very hard rejection from this wall of resistance. We popped above it with some nice follow through that was short-lived, and then it's just, imagine coming up for air from underwater and then just getting knocked right back underwater. What can the ETF do? It can help, but it didn't really help ETH much, right? When ETH's ETF got rolling. What you have to see happen is LTC, BTC put in a longer term bottom, and it just has been a bleed since 2017. So that's worth watching as well. It's just a prolonged all-time low downtrend. So long story short, you've got to reclaim and hold this previous resistance zone. And so again, if we set a weekly high or low and pop back above it, but then set a weekly lower high, it's going to be another rejection. So keep an eye on that zone and how the price reacts to it. The dollar is strong. It's definitely worth paying attention to. Some names are ignoring it today. Gold, silver, and crypto to a certain degree, but crypto bulls really want that dollar to chill out. Do I think this is a dash to trash? Not necessarily. No, a dash to trash would be if everything's at their highs, right? We just consolidate on the weekly time frame for a number of weeks. Dash to trash is if everything's at their highs and the names that have not run yet are getting their turn to break to new highs. Sand. Probably going to be the same thing. Yeah. So again, the retracement size is not good because it creates a ton of space for a weekly lower high. We're scouting a weekly higher low like everything else. We've got to shape up daily uptrends and bull breaks of these sideways ranges. But if we break bull, we're just going to scout an eventual weekly lower high wherever that is because of how much of this move we gave back. Any gold correlation with crypto? I haven't noticed anything significant. There was a little bit of rotation where gold was all bull while crypto consolidated for 6 or 7 months. And then crypto got its turn and gold started consolidating. So a little bit inverse. I mean, let's just look at that real quick. Just show you how I compare things. Generally, I have them in my head just because I'm watching markets every day, but... So when Bitcoin was doing this, March through September, gold, March through September, this is March through September. So just monster breakout while Bitcoin's doing nothing. Then we top out and we consolidate for a couple of months while Bitcoin, so yeah, inverse, if anything, for sure. We'll see how long that lasts. How do you know if a weekly lower high is set? Generally speaking, you confirm a daily uptrend to get the weekly bounce underway. When you lose the daily uptrend, the weekly lower high is likely set. It's a generalization. It happens different ways in different setups, but that is the relationship of the time frames and how we use the trends on the shorter term time frames to give us information about the longer term time frames. LTC, BTC, again, as long as the monthly chart has to change. I mean, we can bounce for a while and still just set a monthly lower high. The chart needs a ton of work. IOUSD. Not an ideal set. I mean, 5-minute oversold can work, but it's not ideal. I would want a straight drop for an hourly higher low and hitting 5-minute oversold. It got front run here. Right here, it got front run into a continuation move that had no follow through. So as soon as that happens and it gets front run like that, I would then go to the 15-minute. Because then the 4-hour, you could say, okay, a 4-hour higher low will be most likely, and we'll watch for potentially 15-minute oversold to shape up that 4-hour higher low. If I just want to be picky and look for the best setup, that 5-minute getting front run takes it off the table for me. How high can the dollar go? I'm not going to make a prediction because I don't have any value in that prediction. Anybody can make a guess as good as mine. All right, a couple more. Pepe, looking for the weekly higher low. It's set. So weekly higher low, set. It's not crystal clear as the other names, but I would be viewing that as the weekly higher low. And now anything under 28.36 is just a lower high. We have a daily uptrend as our guide. Let's go to the 12-hour. So I could say, all right, if I'm keeping an eye out for a weekly lower high, I'm going to be watching for the possibility that a bear pattern sets it up. So I'm going to draw a 12-hour potential rising wedge. Do I think it's most likely? Not necessarily, but I'm going to keep an eye on it. And if a 12-hour rising wedge confirms, that would be the first baby step towards a potential weekly lower high being set. But for now, we know our most important support is that weekly support at 1441, because if we lose that level, monthly consolidation is then likely shaping up. It's a nice backtest and hold of previous resistance so far. We see all this resistance on the way up, get above it, backtest and hold, backtest and hold. So that's a good thing for now. VET. Weekly higher low trying to form. Bulls still have proving to do on the daily. It's still a downtrend. Again, same. I'd be going on the 2-day chart. It's a 2-day equilibrium. Low, lower high, higher low. Anything under 55 is another lower high. This tightening 2-day range must break bull for a weekly higher low to be set. It's possible we stay tightening up here into next week. Everything's doing, I mean, they're just doing different versions of the same thing, right? We're trying to set weekly higher lows. EMA 12 is in play for a lot of names. This was a falling wedge on ERG-USD. And now we have to confirm a daily uptrend once we top out if that weekly higher low is going to follow through at all. Gaps, I keep an eye on them only if there's a confluence of signals. You know, a gap in itself in the stock world is never reason enough for me to do anything. But if you know, I'm looking for a daily oversold bounce and we're at 31 RSI and there's a gap just a little bit lower, I keep an eye on the gap fill. So it's got to be a confluence of signals. It's just one of the little puzzle pieces. How do you know if a weekly higher low is set? Daily uptrend confirming. If you're asking these questions, which is great, ask them. You got to watch Joey's YouTube tutorials on our website. I'll just pull it up on YouTube. This is like the backbone of understanding technical analysis. It's 6 hours. It's like a college seminar that you need to sit down and take notes and watch it multiple times until you get it. Where is it? Joey Webinars. Posting the link. Gotta watch them. All right, I gotta get back to the market. NASDAQ bouncing a bit. Bitcoin, 15-minute is the head and shoulders shaping up. Maybe not. Holding on. Again, you can draw a trend line as a little visual guide from the action since the bell rang. Holding well compared to the NASDAQ. We'll see if that can keep up. All right, do good things. Appreciate you watching. Check out the indicators if you're interested. Again, I'm doing a live stream on Saturday at noon to give you a bunch more details about that. We're over 100 likes. Appreciate that. Don't forget to do good things, and we'll see you soon. Check out the long-term patterns video as well from yesterday.